A very special good morning to our citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Matnik, and a very warm and special greetings to our teachers and members of the Grenada Union of Teachers, and all those who are listening on Facebook through the virtual medium. Warm and friendly fraternal greetings to you. And the spirit of independence, the 52nd anniversary of our independence, as we say, our theme for Grenada, anchored in faith, guided by purpose. And we really and truly want to highlight that this morning as we had a wonderful independence celebration and a right and a correct theme for that basically 52nd anniversary of independence, anchored in faith, guided by purpose. And this morning we just really want to, as we echoed our theme, anchored in faith, this moment in Grenada, with a lot of things. We had a wonderful celebration and everything like that. So, but we also, to the fact that we want to take the opportunity on the behalf of the Grenada Union of Teachers. So we know that we had, a violent deaths in Grenada. Ms. Alianja Let Hippolyte, and a young lady from Crucial Cafe and such, which have touched the lives of the entire nation and the diaspora, and probably through the world. So on the behalf of the Grenada Union of Teachers, we take the opportunity to express our deepest sympathy and condolences to the family of the late Andrea Let Hippolyte. And we pray that her soul will rest in peace, as we said, in this moment, very touching moment with what has happened, anchored in faith, guided by purpose, especially in those difficult moments. This theme is very appropriate in itself as we anchor in faith. We want to take the opportunity also to express our deepest sympathy and condolences to Ms. Hilary Mitchell and the Mitchell family of Grenada and those in Canada and the United States. So we know that to the death of the sudden death of Ms. Tricia Mitchell. So Darius, Ms. Tricia Mitchell Darius, so really and truly live in Canada. So we express our deepest sympathy to the family of Tricia Mitchell. It's really sad news indeed. And as we say, it's a difficult moment for the family, whether in Grenada, in Canada, the United States, or wherever we are. So we pray that God's strength and God's blessing go with you and all those who are going through difficult moments at this time in Grenada and wherever you are. And so this theme is really and truly an inspiration by God for the 52nd anniversary of Grenada's independence, anchored in faith and guided by purpose as we face some of the challenging and most difficult times, in Grenada, with whatever the situation, some of the stormy waters that we go through. So we pray that Almighty God will strengthen and bless our citizens, bless our government, bless the Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou, and Matnik, the leader of the opposition, will bless our union, our teachers, will bless all our workers, will bless the working class people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Matnik, and all persons who in the diaspora, wherever you are, as at this time we anchor in faith, anchoring in faith here as an independent nation, that God will continue to carry us, and as a Christian people that will continue to submit and to surrender to God's will for us as a nation, and God will continue to guide us as Grenadians, the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Matnik, and the diaspora, wherever we are. So we pray that God will continue to bless our nation and our 52nd anniversary, and as we continue to go forward with productivity and all those things, whether we are teachers, whether we are police officers, nurses, doctors, the ordinary fishermen, agricultural workers, wherever we are throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and Matnik, that on this 52nd anniversary of our independence, as we celebrate, that we anchor in faith and that we are deeply rooted in our Christian values and virtues, and especially as we go through these trying and difficult times, and that we are guided by purpose. I want to take the opportunity also on the behalf of the Grenada Union of Teachers, that we know that is the carnival season in Carriacou and Matnik. So we want to wish the Carriacou and Matnik a safe an enjoyable, carnival free from accidents and incidents while you enjoy yourself. And as we get ready to celebrate tomorrow, pleasure Ash Wednesday or the season of Lent, so we just pray blessings upon our country, blessings upon our government, blessings upon our teachers, and blessings on all men and women throughout the walks of life, throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique, the diaspora, and wherever you are. So this morning, this press conference is really, timely and such coming to you. So we're bringing you really and truly on Facebook and wherever you are through TNR Communications. And so we really want to thank TNR for affording us the opportunity to reach you wherever you are. There are some issues that we want to discuss, and we'll take them one by one. So at the same time as we begin, we want to take the opportunity to congratulate, first of all, the government of Grenada. We want to take the opportunity. We know we had a CBA that was signed basically for the Christmas with Tamcc Council and the government of Grenada for the lecturers of Tamcc. And so, yes, while it was a long and difficult, tedious battle and everything like that, so we put on record our deepest and greatest appreciation. This was the first time that we had a CBA, collective bargaining agreement, and with fringe benefit package for the first time. That period, 2026 to 2028 for the lecturers. This is a separate and distinct negotiations from what is happening now with teachers in the public school with the Grenada Union of Teachers. So we just want to differentiate. But we put on record here our deepest and sincere gratitude and appreciation to Tamcc Council, also to the Ministry of Education, to the government and cabinet of Grenada, for this wonderful milestone and achievement for the first time that the Tamcc lecturers will enjoy some benefits that is really and truly sound. And one of them basically that they are enjoying, which have started in January, was the new pension from the contributory pension, and it has started. So we say congratulations. It will be a really and truly mindset for the lecturers really settled to know that going forward, at least, and past credits were honored. It means that the government of Grenada would have honored basically all the years before that the lecturers would have worked at Tamcc, or whether they have worked with the government, and so they would honor that. That's what you call past credit, so that they would not lose anything. So we really and truly want to say thank you to the government of Grenada. Thank you to the Honorable Deacon Michel for that milestone and such. While we appreciate, yes, we have some other burning issues to deal with here today, but for this one, we are grateful to God and we are grateful to the government of Grenada. We are grateful to Tamcc Council and Tamcc for this milestone. We express gratitude also that the workers, the lecturers did receive the 5% increase for 2026. They did receive it in December, and we say thanks. We express gratitude in January there for the 5% for 2025 with the retroactive payments were paid. And the lecturers also received their 4% salary increases for 2026. So we want to put it on record here that the government of Grenada, although the payment for 2025 was 1 year in coming and it was late, but the lecturers of Tamcc did receive the 5% for 2025 and also retroactive payments. And so we are grateful. And we put on record here our thanks and appreciation to the Minister for Education, to Tamcc, to the government of Grenada for honoring at the same time, while they pay the 5% for 2025 to the lecturers at Tamcc. That has nothing to do with teachers in the public schools, right? And at the same time, they honor the 4% for 2026 to the lecturers. And at the same time, simultaneously, pension is in full swing in the payments and everything like that. So there are some little things and other things to be honored as we go through the collective bargaining agreement, but the CBA and fringe benefits and everything is really and truly, we record it as our deepest appreciation for Tamcc lecturers at this time, the number of fringe benefits that they got and such, which would help to make their lives, really better going forward. So we call on the lecturers at Tamcc. We know that you're working hard, but we know also that you got some serious benefits. You got your salary increases and everything. So productivity and everything like that. So it would be the order of the day. So while we are happy that you receive all your benefits and such, and we know that you're doing a wonderful job, there is always room for improvement. So we call upon now the lecturers at Tamcc to really dig deep, and this period of independence where we decide and we want to take our nation forward, while we anchored in faith and guided by purpose, that you will be guided by purpose and in faith and such like that. So with that determination and drive to really, as a tertiary institution, in really teaching the nation's children, the adults and everything, and preparing for life. So we really want to thank the government, we want to thank Tamcc, we want to thank our lecturers and everything like that. So, and let's continue to really work together. So while we on these matters, we're going to continue here the situation. So we're going to look at now the situation with St. Giles Anglican school, because we know it came, to the public and such, that there was some action taken by parents and such with the situation at St. Giles Anglican School, because of the length of time that the government of Grenada, Ministry of Education, had promised the teachers, promised the students, promised parents. I think was since within the previous administration that they were going to build a new school for St. Giles. But in the midst of that situation there, it took a very long time, and it's a process. And based on the church, the Anglican church, the Catholic church, which accommodated the students and principal and staff of St. Giles to Holy Cross RC Munich. And that is happening now for about 3 years. So we express our gratitude to the church, the Catholic church under Bishop Clive Harvey, and also the principal and members of staff and students of Holy Cross RC for already accepting and accommodating the principals and students and members of staff of St. Giles Anglican School at their institution over in Holy Cross. But we know the situation have been going on for quite a long time, and both parents and students and teachers really and truly are anxious to go back home to the really land. Everybody, no matter where you go, really anxious to go back home at your foundational level, and they're based at St. Giles Anglican School. So there was some little problems, hiccups there. The Grenada Union of Teachers, listening to that and seeing what is happening, did meet with, try to intervene, did meet with members of staff of both institutions, Holy Cross RC and St. Giles, meet with the principal and staff. We also met with the Anglican Church, we met with the Catholic Church, we met also with the Minister for Education and other officials at the Ministry of Education, and we tried to discuss to see how we could have a solution going forward to that problem there. One of the problems is that St. Giles Anglican School, they feel that they are there in Holy Cross for a long period of time, and they were promised a new building, and they did not see it coming in fruition. So one thing that we really discussed with the Minister of Education, the Ministry of Education, and also the church is that going forward is most definitely based on the promises by the Minister of Education and the assurance that he gave that it is budgeted for, and that the government will build that new school for St. Giles. Now, it might take a little while because, yes, though the drawing is also in completion and almost there are all other technicalities and a number of different things that have to really and truly take place before the school really and truly the building starts. So from the foundation in every sense. So there are some work that have to be done and everything like that. So, and it will take a little while. So while we get the assurance, and we want the community of St. Giles, parents and students and the principals and members of staff, even of both institutions, to know that the government did make that promise and give that commitment, together with the Minister for Education, the Honorable David Andrew, and also other officials from the Ministry of Education, that the new building, the new school for St. Giles will be built, most definitely, but it still will take a little time before. And so they did say they're not 100% sure, but they will try hard to see if by the third quarter of 2026 they could start on that building. At the same time, when we're dealing with that, we're dealing also with a situation with Holy Cross RC, where, yes, it's a nice building, but unfortunately, for whatever the reasons are, it seems that the school have some serious cracks and such, and the physical structure, there is some problems there. And deep-rooted problem that create concern for the health and safety of our members, for students and everybody. So we did ask in our engagement for the Chief Technical Officer's reports, and the ministry, while he wasn't able to do any presentation at the engagement at the meeting, the Minister for Education and the Ministry of Education did give us the assurance based on what the Chief Technical Officer and those persons with the technical mind visited Holy Cross RC School, and they did say, so we wanted to make sure we press and we concern, because health and safety is paramount importance for the Grenada Union of Teachers, not only for teachers but for students, in case something would happen there. But they did give us the assurance based on the word from the Minister for Education and the Ministry of Education that the building, though we have some serious cracks and whatever it is sound, is safe and sound for the time being to work with. We got the assurance also that they are working assiduously, quickly, and movements have been made to really and truly persons going to the schools, these technocrats and all the different peoples who able to deal, to test, to look to see what is happening, and for remedial work and everything to take place at Holy Cross RC to really and truly fix that problem. So they did say we press for some time to say when would that work start. All right, they did not say to us it's going to start next week or the week after, but they're going to brief us and such is what is happening, and very soon. So we really do hope, because of the situation there, and to really quell and such some of the concern, and to give safety and security for productivity and all those things, and a peace of mind for both members of staff for St. Giles and Holy Cross RC, that the Ministry of Education, the government of Grenada, communications and works, and all those persons will really do what they have to do as quickly as possible, so that at least for the Easter, or even after that soonest, that work will start at the repair work at Holy Cross RC, so that persons would have really and truly a peace of mind. In the discussion also, it seems that what the government is saying and the Ministry of Education, that the funding for St. Giles' new school really is local funding, so the government is building that school, coming from the coffers of Grenada. So it's very difficult to replace or to send them something somewhere else in another building to retrofit. All right, so if all the monies go into that, it's going to be difficult in itself, because you're robbing from, or you're taking away from the funding from the new building to retrofit and such. So while we press for the repairs for the teachers and students and other persons to remain based on the discussion at Holy Cross RC until the new building takes place, we want to make sure that it is safe and sound. And it seems, it appears for the time being, that the St. Giles, the students and principal and members of staff of St. Giles Anglican will have to stay some time and remain at Holy Cross while they do the repairs. So we hope that the repairs that they have to do, that the students of both institutions, Holy Cross and St. Giles, will be able to be accommodated in the same building. So we're not saying in the sense that adjustment would not have to be made and everything like that. So, but for the time being, based on the discussion, we are very satisfied in one sense. Now, the GUT and others, the church, we will not hesitate or make any joke with health and safety. But based on the discussion going forward, we are comfortable in the sense that the government will be able, and the Ministry of Communications and Works, the Ministry of Education, with the minister's backing, number one, will build a new school for St. Giles Anglican School. And secondly, that repairs will take place, all the remedial work to make sure at Holy Cross RC, and to alleviate that problem. And it seems for the time being that members of staff of St. Giles would have to remain at Holy Cross. At the same time, there is a transportation problem, and so it's because, for both teachers and students, parents, the students have to go up to Holy Cross RC where they were further down the road and such, transportation costs, and also the reliable transportation. So this is something that we're asking the Ministry of Education to really and truly try to see if they could correct and such for the accessibility of transportation at a reasonable cost, and to do everything that they can also to alleviate some of the difficulties that both members of staff, both institutions and parents and the students would experience while they at Holy Cross. So we ask both sides and both teams to really work together, and such is a difficult situation, but to try the best for the safety and such of both students and teachers, and to try to accommodate each other. So we'll keep the nation abreast and our members, both staff and institutions. So at least for the time being, we are going places here. While we are dealing with Holy Cross and we are dealing with St. Giles, there was a situation with Grenville Secondary School. As president of the Grenada Union of Teachers, together with the president of St. Andrew's branch, we visited Grenville Secondary School because we were invited there. The concerns of staff and such, not only for the teachers but for the students, and for really into the level of productivity and everything. So while we were there, we see that they are really and truly trying to do a good job. But at the same time, when you look at the physical structure of the building, the more or less kind of dilapidated conditions and such, it doesn't really encourage or motivate, inspire neither the children, the students there, nor the teachers or staff with the kind of productivity and everything that they are calling for from our nation to help build and for our nation to rise. So some attention must be given from the Ministry of Education and from the government of Grenada and all those who are responsible for repairs and all the different things. And we're talking about urgent attention to Grenville Secondary School. The dilapidated conditions, we saw there electrical problems, and some of the electrical problems is low lying. We saw wires and things even in the toilet and such was hanging down, and you can't take these chances where children might be able, out of curiosity, see an electrical thing hanging down and touch it with wet hands and such, and that could create problems there, real electrical hazards. Somebody could be electrocuted there. So we saying that when we saw that, we took a tour of the building, immediately we reported that to the Ministry of Education and such. So while the Ministry of Education have plans probably to repair and do those things, there are some matters for urgent attention with the low-hanging fruits and everything like that. So with the electrical problems, wire, bulbs and things coming out, fixtures of the ceiling and those things like that. Those things are hazards right in the classroom. And so we're asking and we're calling for urgent attention for Grenville Secondary School to make it a little bit more habitable for learning and accommodation and everything like that. We know that there are some bigger works to be done. And yes, it might take a little time. You look at the roof, you look at the entire building and such, you look at classroom and such. It is not accommodating for learning and teaching as you would want for productivity. In the meantime, the teachers, principals, and students, they are trying their best. But if you look at that situation there, it is not easy at all. And so we're calling upon, the Minister for Education, the Ministry of Education, Communications and Works, Government of Grenada. And one of the complaints I heard from Grenville Secondary School, even this morning I called before this press conference here to really check, that is not so much that the work is not being done, Some of the problems is not so much that the work has not been done, but since that we reported the problem and we were told that persons will visit the school, so at least a little hearing. So the major concern is not sometimes the damages and all those things are what is happening, but sometimes the situation when you call and you make a request and such, what is happening in school, the physical building and otherwise and such, the length of time that somebody from the ministry or other places take to really visit and show some concern that even if you did not fix it the same time, but you send somebody to visit the school and you let the students and the teachers and the principal know that you really care and you're pushing and you're working, that they, yes, they might still be a little mad, but at the same time, they're going to take some consolation that somebody cares, somebody came from the Ministry of Education. It's the same thing with other places. So when we call and we report, and we do that so many times behind the scene, we don't go out in the public and say those things. A lot of the times when we have a press conference, I call a press conference, or the Grenada Union of Teachers have a press conference, is because we have been reporting and complaining and doing all those things for a number of times. And when it becomes enough is enough and such, we have to bring it out in the public domain, because a lot of times it's still when you bring something out in the public domain, that's when you get it fixed. And so we call in on the, the authorities to really give some urgent attention to Grenville Secondary School. There is flooding there, water leaking and coming down in classroom. So when that happening, how children and teachers going to really learn? You have to duck and put pan and put other stuff in the classroom and those things like that. So, I mean, in a modern school and educational structure and building, these were times or the days back in the 50s or all these when Grenada was struggling, and you have people in their little houses and such, and you have a leak in the roof and such. In these modern times and such, we're not saying that everything is going to be nice and dandy in every educational institution, but the basic things must be there, all right, to facilitate, teaching and learning. So at least that the students and the staff will be reasonably comfortable so that they could do the work. And when the teachers who they did not perform at that time, then you can say, well, at least we do everything for you and you're not performing. At the same time, we have all the teachers. I want to commend our teachers throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique. Now, there is still room for improvement. But in spite of the situations in schools, and we know the conditions of some schools, we know also that the government of Grenada and Ministry of Education, that they are really and truly fixing and building new schools, and they are doing a wonderful job. So we're not saying we give them praise for that. But at the same time, that the teachers, no matter what the conditions are in school, that the teachers really actually go the extra mile beyond the call of duty, and they do what they have to do to teach the nation's children. But we're saying for the productivity level and everything like that, so there is much more to be done. And we want all our teachers to be productive, to do what we have to do to teach our nation's children and to build Grenada, to prepare our citizens, our young people for the future development of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique. So teachers, they go beyond the call of duty. Yes, there is more to be done. But when you look at some of the physical conditions and all those things in certain schools, it is not easy to work there. At the same time, we know that the government of Grenada is trying their best, building a lot of new schools and such to accommodate, teaching and learning and such, for the development, holistic development of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique. So it's a balanced equation. So please give some attention to Grenville Secondary School. Don't allow teachers and some persons to say that some institutions are getting more attention than others and such, because that could be a demotivating factor. And the length of time in which the Ministry of Education and other authorities take to respond to situation. What we're saying is that you get the call and you show some concern. You mightn't be able to fix it tomorrow morning, but send somebody there. Empathy, listen, hear the cry of the people, the community, the cry of the teachers, the students, and everybody, and you go there and such, and yes, you may not be able to fix it at the same time, but people will still say, at least you came and you're doing something, and that's what we want, and it's going to alleviate some of the problems that we've been having. While we at Grenville Secondary School, when I visited Grenville Secondary, there are some complaints that quite a number of teachers did not receive any compensation for the SBAs. And I think even before that, we reported this matter to the Ministry of Education, the authorities there. And so while other schools, we congratulate again the Ministry of Education, the government of Grenada, because that's for the first period of time that we have that in our previous collective bargaining agreement, compensation for the marking of SBAs for secondary, CCSLC, for CPA, and a number of different things, CVQs. So we want to thank the government, but in the midst of that, the Ministry of Education, but at the same time, there are some teachers since 2024 that did not receive any compensation for the marking of SB, and they due for it. So we send the list to the Ministry of Education. That's what we do. We collect and we assist the Ministry of Education. We're not the enemy of the state or the enemy of the Ministry of Education. The Grenada Union of Teachers and teachers are not the enemy of the state. We collaborate and such, and we should be collaborating and such for the effective education of the nation's children, working together. And that's what we do. So where the ministry is lacking in data and information, the GUT would assist, send out to our teachers or Google Forms, a number of different things. We'll bring the information to the Ministry of Education. Is when we find that after a long time they're not doing what they have to do, then we have to come out and let the nation know. But that's the situation here. So we're really calling on, because I think the promise was made by this period of payment there, that those teachers will be paid, but they have not seen anything as yet. So let's see what the month end, all right, this by payment month end in February, some good news will be for the teachers of Grenville Secondary, and if there are other teachers in other schools that they did not get compensation for the marking of SBA for 2024, probably 2025, that period, and that really and truly it should happen. So we look forward for that. Another problem that we've been encountering this year, we sort of keep quiet from the period September to December, January, the late payment or non-payment of salaries. We have gone through that so many times for teachers. But this time, we did not take any industrial action. We did not bring it out in the public domain. We did not do that. All right, we didn't bring it out in the public domain, but quietly behind, we were bringing information to the Ministry of Education. There are over 100 teachers from September to December who really and truly didn't get paid at that time, and it was a real struggle. Some persons were still bumped off the list, and prominent persons. So we're asking the question, well, what is really happening in the Ministry of Education? Are those important places, Ministry of Finance, or those places that is responsible for paying the teachers? Why is it that every year we clamoring? The year before we took action for 394 teachers, and we are saying here, we don't really believe it's the intention of the government and the Honorable Deacon Mitchell administration to pay salary late or to pay late. Because that is not a trend. They have been trying to pay on time. They have been trying to honor their commitment. So where is those things coming from in the Ministry of Education and across other ministries that you have not just one or two teachers, but you have many teachers? This time over 100, and as we say, we leave it lie low and such and that. So we didn't really make any noise and bring it out to the public. And while, yes, the ministry have tried to really pay and honor some of the payments and everything like that, so probably working and going extra mile, there were some teachers who did not receive the adequate payment for all the months. So they pay 1 month or they pay 2 months and then still missing, and they still have to go back now and be paying again and such. So you're asking the question, why is it that the teachers are already suffering like that? And at the same time, we have been saying to the Ministry of Education, we have been saying to government, and they're hearing us over and over, that there's a lot of problems. A lot of the teachers and other persons in Grenada are working class people who really and truly depend on their salaries month to month. All right, by monthly basis. They already have, the working class. So they already have additional income. Some persons are really and truly young people who start their families, single parents, headed by young women, and quite a number of different things. So they depend on their salary. They do not have their home, or they have their mortgage, or they're renting. As soon as the landlord doesn't get paid, that the landlord would call. And even that happened before. Quietly, I did not say that publicly, but even from that period, September to December, there were quite a number of landlords who were calling me calling the president of the GOT, calling the Grenada Union of Teachers. What is happening? Because they were doubting some of the teachers and saying, no, they're not speaking the truth. They don't want to pay. And that is not true. When the teachers say to them that they did not get paid for a period of time. So you see now the kind of humiliation and disgrace and all those things that it is causing for teachers and workers when they do not get paid on time. As we say, we know based on the situation there, that is the desire and the goodwill of the administration, the NDC administration, to pay teachers and to pay workers on time. So it is incumbent upon them to put the structures in place, because at the end of the day, it's the government that will get the blame and look bad. When those things happen, even if the government are well-intended and have good intention to pay on time and such, they have to put the structures and look at the persons in the various places that have to make up the salaries, do what they have to do, and to ensure that these people do the work, because it will make the government look bad. And that's the kind of thing that we have been experiencing. And even January came and I met teachers, even new teachers who were in the system from since September. A young man asked me the question. He said, I'm coming to work on time in a particular school. He said, the ministry, based on the Education Act, I have to come to work on time. I've been coming to work on time, do what I have to do. And still in January, he has not been paid. So you know the frustration and those things that is happening are taking place from what is happening. And so we are calling on the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Finance, Government of Grenada to do what they have to do for improvement in that area, because it seems to be becoming a recurring decimal where a lot of teachers, and then now they have the loans, teachers have the loans, they have the mortgage, and increases occurring when they don't get paid for a long period of time. And it's not government or the Ministry of Education or Finance that are really and truly absorbing those increase. When you have to pay your penalty for your loans, it's the same teachers and workers that have to do it. So it's a double jeopardy of more penalties and embarrassment and humiliation when the financial institution calling you and such and threatening you and such with a loan and such is embarrassing. And it creating a kind of credit-worthy problem for that same young person or that same teacher. And so we don't really want that to happen going forward. So we're asking everybody to step up. And at the same time, we're calling upon the teachers they know you're doing a good job, but to step up and such productivity, let it be a watchword and everything like that, so to educate and to teach the nation's children. So while we're dealing with that is, a major concern. So with late payments and everything, and we want you to do better. There are some persons who were regularized, and we thank the government of Grenada for the last batch of teachers who were regularized, almost 225 teachers. That happened in June or July of 2025. And most did receive their payments. There are some teachers who are still not yet received all of their monies. All right, and also increments for 2026, they have not seen that yet. Some persons have not gotten the letters, a few of them were pulled back and withdrawn. So there are some little problems there. So we ask the Ministry of Education to fix that and to ensure that those teachers are fully compensated, those who, whatever they have to get. All right, we know that they're not getting everything. We know the workout plan and whatever it is. But whatever they have to get, please and kindly let the teachers get their little compensation and such, and the increment payments, which is due basically in January of every year. So we're calling on the Ministry of Education and Government of Grenada to do that. We want to, at the same time, express on the behalf of those teachers who are regularized, deepest thanks and appreciation to the Ministry of Education, to the Public Service Commission, to the Government of Grenada. In this dispensation, you have a lot of teachers and workers being regularized. That is a good thing, job security. So the government there is trying its best. There are more teachers to be regularized, which we're going to talk about. We're looking forward to our next batch of teachers to be regularized. We're looking forward, we're hearing the cry of nurses and other persons, we don't want to be selfish, for them to be regularized also. So what we want to put on record, we want to thank Almighty God. All right, we really want to thank Almighty God for those teachers who were regularized. We want to thank the government of Grenada, the Minister for Education, the Ministry of Education, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, all right, for going forward with the regularization. So we can safely say quite a number of teachers were regularized. And so we give thanks to our nation on this 52nd anniversary of our independence that we're going forward for job security. This government, we want to put on record that this administration is an administration that seems to be more labor friendly for teachers and for workers. That doesn't mean to say that we won't experience some problems, but the record is there from the very inception since they came into office. So where there is time for praise, we give them praise. Where there is time to give them some fires and such, we give them some fires. We balance, and that is what I do here. But on the behalf of the Grenada Union of Teachers, on my behalf, we want to express thanks to the government of Grenada and the Honorable Deacon Mitchell for really going forward with the regularization and to really continue, because we're looking forward to a third batch, and there are other workers in the public service that are looking forward to be regularized, whether nurses, whether other persons, they're looking forward to. At the same time, teachers, I want you to remember here, and a clarion call, that remember you were temporary. There are still teachers who over 5 years and 7 years, 8 years, 9 years who are still temporary. And you're looking forward for the day when you're going to be regularized. But there was a time when a lot of teachers, hundreds, was sad. Can you imagine the state, how you were? Think about it. That you were sad. You were demotivated. You wanted probably to leave the system, leave teaching. So I'm saying that to say, know that your sadness have turned into joy. That know that you have been regularized to step up to your responsibility in terms of productivity and everything, to teach the nation's children, to educate the nation's children, and to be thankful because you're no longer a temporary teacher, but you have job security, you have everything. So the government did its part for you. You now have to do your part for the nation's children and for Grenada, for productivity and everything, as we say, as we anchor in faith and guided by purpose. And so that is where we are. And we are grateful. And while we talk about regularization, we want to that clarion call, because we know that we did not hear anything about the next batch of teachers to be regularized. And so we really ask the Ministry of Education and the government of Grenada, the Public Service Commission, to really and truly do what we have to do for another batch of teachers to be regularized. We did say in a previous press conference that there are some teachers. I can remember Gracelyn from Special Eds, Grenville. Can remember, she's almost getting ready to retire. I cannot remember her last name. All right? He's basically a special teacher, physically challenged, and such sign language that she did. And we say at that time, Grenada didn't really have all the institutions and those things to educate some of these people, to bring them up to the level for the basic requirements that an ordinary teacher would have. But those persons, she has a skill. And in the resource center in Grenada, there is a young man, I can't remember his name, but I think he's blind. But he has the qualifications and such. And we call and we sent his name to the Ministry of Education, to Public Service Commission, to please remember these people and regularize them. Because those persons, yes, they have a little job now, but they go down in age. And yes, when they leave, some of them blind, some of them physically challenged and such, after they retire, they will not be able to do any sort of work or what the case may be too accommodated. They must have some kind of income to live on. So we call in, and that is a special call for the Ministry of Education. They give the commitment to do it, but there is some great urgency, because I think somebody like Teacher Gracelyn will be retiring soon. And so we really want her pension to be secured. So we're calling on the Ministry of Education, the Honorable, the Minister for Education, Honorable David Andrew, to really push PS and other persons to look at these people, all right, in the resource center and in the schools for special education. Not the ordinary teachers who don't have the challenge. Those persons, most of them are regularized already. There are some persons to be regularized. But we're talking about those who are physically challenged and such, the blind. We're talking about those who have other problems and such. But they're still doing a wonderful job. So look for another way, another mechanism to regularize them. And so we look forward for that to happen, and we give thanks. All right, so we go in places. So we talk about the regularization. We talk about basically Tamcc. We have some teachers in teacher education department, teacher education, who have really received their certificates and such, and they're really due for upgrade. and payments, and that have not been done as yet. So we're calling on the Ministry of Education, the government of Grenada, to do what they have to do with that. There is a situation for urgent attention, so that I'm bringing it out to the nation, bring it out to the Ministry of Education, bring it out to the Public Service Commission, or bring it out also for the Honorable Deacon Mitchell to hear, and DP and others. And that problem is with teachers who going on retirement. Teachers who are going on retirement, pre-retirement. There are some teachers who are on retirement for a whole year, going on 2 years, and they have not been paid. They have not received their gratuity payments, and they have not received pension. So these people have nothing to live on. Now, let me say what the problem is there. The problem is that these teachers, unfortunately, we're hearing a new trend now that teachers to be regularized and such are for pensionable purposes, they are sent to DPA. Now, DPA has nothing to do with the ordinary teachers in the system. The Public Service Commission. And so the Public Service Commission or the Ministry of Education should not be sending these ordinary teachers, because there is no need for the joining of services. There is no break there for some of these teachers. Now, if there is a break in service, so I just want the public to know, because sometimes you probably have new persons in the Public Service Commission, you have new persons in the Ministry of Education, you have new persons, and probably they don't understand the rule and the CBA and those things that are assigned. For teachers who are temporary, please, the Public Service Commission, this is a call for you. For teachers who are temporary and they become permanent, they do not lose their years of service while they are temporary. All the temporary years is added. And so these persons, we're not talking about teachers who get a little 3 months in the system here. So you get a little 3 months for somebody who is on maternity leave, you get a little bling. That's not pensionable. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about continuous service. So you in a school, you might be in one school for 2 years, and then you probably might be in another school, but 2 years continuously. Are you in the same school, the same workplace? Whether it be for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, even if you spend 20 years as a temporary teacher, but continuous service, once you are regularized, there is no joining of service for you. Once you are regularized, your temporary years is being recognized. And so PSC, just when you apply and you say, well, you want to retire, that doesn't have to go to DPA. And the Governor General doesn't have to sign. You as a teacher don't have to sign for that, apply for the joining of service. The joining of service, when it goes to DPA for pensionable purposes, is when basically there is a break in service. So you probably leave the teaching job and you probably go somewhere else. If you spend more than 5 years out of that, then you have a problem. They would recognize your joining of service for 5 years and under. If you spend 6 and 7 and 8 years somewhere else in the private sector, or the case maybe you are a teacher and you come back, or you go to study, and even if you go to study because you get certain leave, you're part in the system. But if you deviate from teaching and quite a number of different things, that might create a problem or issue where your service have to be joined. And therefore that matter requires the DPA. And it requires now the Governor General, when you apply for joining of service, when you retire, and they would facilitate that. But even for those people who've service ready, there was a break in service and have to be joined. There are some person 2 years and 3 years. We have somebody in the Tamcc who was part of the public service, a teacher, for 20 or more years. So once you're 10 years as a teacher in a pensionable position, you're entitled to some form of pension. At a reduced level, 20 years. The maximum is 26 and 2/3 years. But there are some people who crying out silently. They apply and such. And think about it for yourself, the nation. Think about it, Public Service Commission. Think about it, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister for Education. A lot of teachers who retire walking silently the road, going up and down from place to place and such to see they could get their pension. And again, I can't say it's the government had to take the blame. But the people, the workers, the people who you put there to facilitate that, and people crying silently. You see people walking, they retire, you don't know. Some people are shining with pension. We appreciate that. That's one of the best achievements. And the government of Grenada under the Honorable Deacon Mitchell had to get some praise and his cabinet because they paid the pension. They paid it. And teachers and workers will never forget that. So we say kudos and we give you thanks. And we give God thanks. But there are some persons who, can you imagine, you out of teaching for a year. Are you a year going on 2 years? And you're not in that state where you're getting NIS pension as yet, because some of these people, they don't already reach 60. So they retire now on the grounds of maximum service, 26 and 2 years. And going on a year, they had their pre-retirement for 3 months. After your pre-retirement for 3 months, your pension supposed to be kicking in. For these people, they still, because why? The problem now of joining of service where that was supposed to go to DPA, and some persons are catching what you say, they nenen. The government wouldn't like to hear that. I'm probably sure. I'm sure that when the Honorable Prime Minister hear that, at what in a time today, with this press conference, he will be appalled. Probably he doesn't know that. There are quite a number of teachers who struggling, they reach their maximum years, and they're struggling to get a pension. So we're asking the Public Service Commission to take charge of that. And where there is no joining of service, there is no need to send that to DPA and to do what you have to do, the Ministry of Education, and to try to work at least quickly, because those persons, they do what they have to do to the nation. And they now reach as citizens getting ready to go and relax. And they shouldn't be leaving St. Patrick's, living there, coming down every day or every other day or every other week to look to see if they could get a pension address. So it's something that urgent attention have to be given to. But at the same time, we want to put on record again, is a balance here today, our deepest appreciation and gratitude to the government of Grenada for the number of pensions and persons. You can see a lot of teachers and public officers, police officers who retire. They are happy. They are happy for the pension. They are grateful. But still, there is some little problems behind the scene that you may never know of. And some persons, they walk in all over the place to see if they get a pension thing, and they can't get it. And even if you have to be joining service, there is no need for taking something in DPA before DPA, 2 years and a year and more, and persons can't get that thing joined, and waiting all this time for no reason without a response is not good, is not acceptable at all. So we're really asking you to really do what you have to do and to really step up, and let's step up. So we're moving on. We want to give the government here in the public praise for the technical teachers once again. The technical teachers from 2008, which means that they cross administration 2008. A long time now, these teachers, they did their courses. And from administration to administration, nobody bothered with them. But the Honorable Deacon Mitchell administration, they intervened, they did what they have to do to the Minister for Education, the Ministry of Education, the Grenada Union of Teachers and them teachers, the accreditation board for accrediting them to the position of a qualified teacher. So you can imagine from since 2008, nobody ever solved it, but the government of Grenada under the Honorable Deacon Mitchell solve it and resolve it. And those teachers have a lot of money to get. But at least they are upgraded and they start getting their payments in tranches. Nothing wrong with that. But they start receiving their payments and they upgrade. And we are grateful and they are grateful. And we say thanks to the government of Grenada and the Honorable Deacon Mitchell from since 2008. And that's why we want to say that we really believe in the midst of everything that this administration, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, is labor friendly. But there are some issues in such that they really and truly have to step up and have a watchful eyes in all the different critical areas to make sure that people do what they have to do so that they don't continue getting a bad name. Because they have to take the blame in terms of when things didn't go right. We also want to say this morning that I visited the Seventh-day Adventist school, primary school at Archibald Avenue there. Good school. We want to commend the government of Grenada. When I was there, I was shocked. New building going up, side by side, at the school there, side by side. And so principal and members of staff and students, they are very grateful to the Ministry of Education, Communications and Works, to the government of Grenada for this new building. And we see a lot of schools are going up in Grenada. New buildings to assist education, productivity for the children to be comfortable, more labs and all the different things to facilitate transformation of education, a different mindset of productivity and everything, which is a good thing. Or we also want to say here that in the designs of schools, that the teachers and principals and such must have given the opportunity to scrutinize too. So many times, sometimes this work have been done by the technocrats. And when you build a school, you see what is happening. In tutus, you just spend millions of dollars for schools. And you have to go back and, not 1 year, just a year, less than a year, roof collapsing. There's something wrong. So we're not saying that all those things happening. These are things that sometimes the government come and meet there from bad works before, but they have to spend money that they could be doing something else. They have to spend money to repair. Sometimes what they didn't even do, they didn't do the damage. So we're saying that for them, for this administration to be wise. Yes, when you build in school, to make sure any building, to make sure that you do all the different things that you have to do to make sure that it is sound, to make sure that everything is okay, and to give the teachers, because the teachers want to have a say. As I will go back to say, the older buildings for schools before the long ago buildings, they were wider, they had more space. And when you buildings, we realize that some of the buildings now, modern buildings, they look nice and well. But space, if you have an outbreak of COVID and such, and 6 feet, if the classrooms are narrow, how many tables and such, and you could space out 6 feet. We also noticed that the buildings before and schools before, the older people will tell you, there was a sort of special place for the principal office, where the principal could stay at every direction and command the school, see who is coming in, who is leaving, have a command of the children in one central place. And we observe now that some of the design, the principal office is far in the back in a little corner. So yes, you might have a screen and you have cameras, but you're not taking command, who leaving, who coming in, all the different things. When the principal office, when people coming in school, they should be meeting the principal first. Nobody should be going and just challenging teachers and doing things principal doesn't see and they didn't go there. But the place where you position in your designing and everything, give the teachers. You might feel that the teachers and principals don't know much. That is not true at all. Yes, you might have the degree, you might have all those things, but there is something called common sense also. And you run it by the teachers and such, and principals and schools to have a say so that they can see what is going on. But we congratulate the government for what they are doing in building new schools throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. For the Seventh-day Adventist school there, we just want to say it here. We brought it to the attention of the Ministry of Education, and I think that the principal and staff of the Seventh-day Adventist school in Archibald Avenue, they are frustrated. Why they are frustrated? Because they don't have security officers and security guards in that school. And that is a big school. They were paying for it for themselves. But how long could they do that for? And we know that there are security officers and security guards in almost every school, academic institution throughout the length of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. This administration under the Honorable Deacon Mitchell is making it available. So we don't know what has happened here. The principal and members of staff, they said that they wrote to the Ministry of Education how many times, requesting that the Ministry of Education, just as they gave security guards and such for all schools, other schools, that they give to the Seventh-day Adventist school. And what they were told, years upon years, they're going along now. How many letters that they wrote, and they said it's before cabinet and it's before there and there, but for years upon years it's before cabinet. So we call on the Minister for Education, we call upon the Prime Minister, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, to really intervene in that situation and try. This is an urgent matter, security in school. Right? And there is a large population of that Seventh-day Adventist school in Archibald Avenue there. And please, please, please move urgently. We begging, we kindly, all right, we kindly requesting and we praying that before too long, that is an urgent matter to make available security officers. And also they were requesting a secretary. All right, the school is over 300, and I think once you have a CBA, collective bargaining agreement, that once your population is over 300, 500, 300 to 500, that you deserve or you should get a secretary in your school. And they don't have one too. And probably there are other schools, you actually to pay attention to that, with a population that is over 300 to 500 and more, and they don't have a secretary. So we're requesting that for the Seventh-day Adventist School in Archibald Avenue, and if there are other places. Security is of paramount importance, because we know these days what is happening. Sometimes people running in school, they do all sort of thing, harassing children, harassing teachers, and you don't want something to happen there. And especially if they did put on record applying for securities and something come and happen, then you would have to take the blame. And so that's what we're really asking to move expeditiously and urgently for that. So we coming down. There is another problem that I would want to talk about: the observation, visiting schools, visiting throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique. While we commend and such what the government has done under the previous administration and this administration with the Imanis and auxiliary staff and all those different things, and some of them are doing a wonderful job. The Imanis, auxiliary staff, and everything in school. Some of them, or most of them, are doing a wonderful job. But at the same time, you've been hearing from principals, you've been hearing from teachers, you're hearing it over and over, that there are a few of them in certain places, like in sense, they don't know the boundary. And some of them are creating problems. And we're asking the Ministry of Education, the Public Service Commission, to take a note of that and to deal with that, because a lot of the times they are creating sometimes problems for principals, auxiliary workers, auxiliary staff, so they're not even, you may say, appointed by the Public Service Commission. Yes, we are happy that everybody get a work and everything, whether it doesn't matter who you are, whether temporary or whether permanent or what the case may be, but we're talking about auxiliary workers who are part of the staff. And some of them are really making teachers catch the hell, and sometimes making principals catch the hell, and you're hearing it silently throughout schools, that complain from principals, from teachers. What is happening? And so this is a no-no for the Grenada Union of Teachers. While we commend in the workplace, auxiliary staff and such, whoever they are doing a wonderful job, and we commend them. But the duty and such, we cannot tolerate, and we're asking the Public Service Commission and the Ministry of Education to take note of that. Can't have other workers, they're not even teachers or principals or such, or other workplace, and coming and creating real problems, harassing people, doing as if they are principals in a school or they're more than teachers in a school, calling the shots and creating problems, frustrating teachers' lives and principal lives. And so the Grenada Union of Teachers, that we would not stand for that. But we call on the government to promote in terms of those, whether Imanis or other workers who are there, auxiliary staff, who are doing a wonderful job, and we know that the government have them in the mind and intention for regularization, which is a good thing. So we want to salute auxiliary staff and Imanis and other persons in schools who are really, and in the workplace, who are doing a wonderful job in supporting teachers and supporting principals and such. But from the GOT level and such, we will not tolerate and such other persons who are there, whether supporting staff, they were not appointed by the Public Service Commission and such. They get a job in the school and more or less trying to run things and creating problems while they're running things, running out teachers, creating problems, frustrating teachers' lives, frustrating principal lives, and all those things in a school and causing headache. And probably not only in school, you hear about complaints in other places also. And that cannot be correct at all. So we're asking to really take note of these things, because we would not stand for it. So this is now the crux of the matter that we want to really address. So we brief you on other things, but today we want to address at this particular time the state of salary negotiations for the period 2026 to 2028 with the Grenada Union of Teachers and the government negotiating team. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique, fellow teachers, principals, wherever you are. So we really want you to listen to us because the government of Grenada, through the budget presentation and otherwise, the Honorable Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, also government negotiating team, did address the nation and call for the urgency of negotiations for teachers and public officers. They call for the urgency. In fact, it is on a record that the government did say that by the 15th of January, they would want these negotiations to come to an end. And the Grenada Union of Teachers responded. We had our meeting engagement and such. Negotiations started. The Grenada Union of Teachers with good faith. Good faith, we accommodated and everything like that. So the government negotiating team and both the government negotiating team and the Grenada Union of Teachers, I must say on record here that the negotiations started nicely, wonderfully, and we were going places. And even while we were discussing, I would not say where we are in terms of what percentage we are. I would not disclose that here because negotiation is still ongoing. We have not reached as yet. I would not disclose for that negotiation what fringe benefit that we have gathered and secured and such. But basically, for the period of negotiation, which started in the late part of November, we almost there and finished with fringe benefits, and we thought that all those things were locked down. Because that's the first thing that the GUT would always negotiate. And from both sides, we could have seen good faith. So I put it on record here how the negotiation started. But for the last 3 weeks to a month or so, we find that there is a breakdown in the negotiations. And from the government negotiating team part, the government of Grenada, their negotiating team, because the GUT negotiated in good faith. The record is there. Although we're saying here, many times with the government negotiating team, we had to keep writing them and reminding them that they need to come back to the table. For somehow they were just taking long. So that's an internal problem with the government negotiating team. Nevertheless, they responded. December, November and such, they responded. Early January, and the negotiation was going on quite nicely. That doesn't mean to say that we agreed up on everything at the same time, because that is what negotiations are for, give and take. But at least the communications and everything like that, so, and coming to sit on the table in good faith for all of us. But for that last period there, that last 3 weeks is a headache for us, and we putting it on record here from the Grenada Union of Teachers that we are very, very much disappointed in the government negotiating team. And the government of Grenada, which called for the urgency of salary negotiations to finish by January 15th. We are now a month after that. And so we are not happy at all, and we'll let you know. We'll let you know why. That's the situation here, while we are not happy with the government negotiating team. We left the last meeting probably about 3 weeks ago that we had the last round of negotiation. And we were almost there. Fringe benefits, we almost finished that in a sense, just some polishing up ends. The salary component, we were almost there. And for that last meeting, when the government negotiating team came with their proposal, and in the meeting here, the GUT had a counter proposal, and we were locking it down and everything. We left the meeting really and truly feeling confident, even the government negotiating team, while they had to go back to the principal and they had to go back to the Ministry of Finance and such. We left with the feeling and in the good faith and everything like that, so that our counter proposal and theirs and everything with a balance was just and fair. And we left the meeting with high hopes, because the negotiations were going good all along. And so we had high hopes that that last meeting was the really last negotiating meeting. And we thought by the Monday of the next week, or the case may be, we met the Friday, the Thursday or the Friday. And we thought by Monday or Tuesday of that next week, we would have gotten the call from government negotiating team saying that they accept, and so they had to go back to the principal, go back to the Ministry of Finance or wherever, just to tell us, they told us when we left the table that they will give us an answer soon and they would let us know. So we really were confident. We said, well, okay, at least. But for that 3-week period, or that period of time, we have not heard from the government negotiating team. So they break trust. That negotiation that we had, which were going in good faith on both sides, for the last 3 weeks, nothing from them. So when we did not get that, we wrote, the Grenada Union of Teachers, we wrote to the government negotiating team. And the record is there. Even before that, we had to be writing to them to remind them of negotiations and let come to the table quickly. And they did respond. So the negotiation was going pretty okay, we will say, in all fairness, on both sides. Even if we had, you may say, we did not agree upon everything, negotiation is give and take. But we are having engagement and such, and having good meetings, and we accept that. Where we are in a situation there, when we realize we had no response, 21st of January, we wrote to the chairman of government negotiating team with our concern, 21st of January, to meet. Here again on the 4th of February, we wrote again to the chairman and to government negotiating team. The National Executive of the Grenada Union of Teachers rise to follow up on our most recent meeting with the government negotiating team. We would not say here what we presented as percentage and everything like that, so. But our concern at that meeting, where we were almost there on both sides. And it was just now for the GNT to go back to the government or to the principal and to say, well, okay. Then we come back now, we wrote, when we see no response, so we wrote them, and nobody responded. On the 11th of February 2026, we wrote again. So that's a follow-up letter to the chairman of the GNT, Government Negotiating Team. The National Executive of the Grenada Union of Teachers write to formally follow up on the outstanding responses to the union's final position submitted during our most recent engagement with the government negotiating team. Despite the passage of time since that meeting, the union has received no formal responses. That's part of our letter here. This continued lack of communication is deeply concerning and further undermines the confidence in the negotiating process that has already experienced undue delays. Because we had undue delays, which the government said there is an urgency by the 15th of January. The absence of a response has placed the union in an untenable position as our members are increasingly demanding, that's our letter to them, clarity and resolution, neither of which can be provided at this juncture. The Grenada Union of Teachers therefore demands a definitive response, and we set a date. So we wrote previous letters. We sent one, when again was it, last Friday, and we set a date, a deadline. And up to now, we got no response from the GNT, Government Negotiating Team. So that is where we find the disrespect and the disregard to the Grenada Union of Teachers. And that's the reason why we call a press conference. Because all through the negotiations and such, that haven't been done. We didn't call no press conference and put anything in the public domain. And we know the government of Grenada, they have never really given any problems before since this administration came into power in terms of dealing with the Grenada Union of Teachers and other unions. So the government mantra is to really and truly settle negotiations and disputes amicably. We know that is what the government of Grenada wants under the Honorable Deacon Mitchell. So it is kind of shocking in terms of what we're seeing in good faith and everything like that. So we didn't really have any confrontation. And where the disrespect and thing with us, we're not saying in our counter proposal that the government of Grenada or the GNT had to write to us and to tell us, yes, they accept what we propose. That is not the issue here. The disrespect and all those things in the negotiation and the breakdown is that they promised to respond. And up to now, they have never done. So what we're saying here, we put in on record, where we are really displeased and unhappy, even if the government did not accept our government negotiating team, did not accept our proposal, they said they would respond to us and write back to us and let us know. So two things, they could have written back to us and tell us, yes, they accept, or they could have written back to us and tell us, no, they didn't accept. That's the crux of the matter. But they never responded. And after all the times we recognize that we're writing, and all those things to them, communicating, and no response. And at the same time, now we're seeing the negotiations for the Grenada Union of Teachers could have finished a very long time ago. For the same government and the GNT who said that there are urgency to negotiations and that it should come to an end before the 15th, by the 15th of January. And the Grenada Union of Teachers is balanced. We had our things together. We had our stuff together, well in order. So it's not to say that the government negotiating team, when they come, we weren't ready and such and those things. We were well in order. And we were far advanced in the negotiations. And so it's rather appalling and surprising what we are experiencing. And then we heard, and we saw basically from the press that the police and prison officers will be signing today for a new collective bargaining. Now, we have no problem with that. Let it be known. Because Grenada Union of Teachers is an independent union and we negotiate it separately. And many times we negotiate and we sign an agreement with the government of Grenada. So that is not the crux of the matter. We're saying for the long period of time where we are, and we left the negotiating table in a sense where we thought that that would have been settled there rather quickly and urgently. By now, negotiations should have finished or completed with the Grenada Union of Teachers. And for some strange reason or the other, we not to know if government or government negotiating team still negotiating with other unions and what is taking place within there and what is happening. But it's just creating some kind of suspicion in the sense. Why is it for that long period of time when negotiations supposed to be completed and finished with GUT that we're not hearing anything? And we wrote to the GNT and asking for a response and they would not tell us yes or no. So we are not happy about that. We have no problem with the signing of a CBA with other associations, whether police or prisons or any other union. That is not really our crux of the matter, our concern. Or what we concern about in terms we applaud that. That is a union or association business. But our concern is that where we were for since about a month ago, negotiations, and that could have finished even with GUT long before the delay was on the government negotiating team side. So many times we have to be writing them and tell them, asking them, when will they come to the negotiating table, when they coming back and such. But nevertheless, when they came back, the meeting was good. Those engagements were good. Where we see the breakdown now is where we almost there, reaching that particular place. Why we would not come here and give the percentage or such, we'll say that we were almost there. Almost there. So we are not happy and we're calling upon the government negotiating team. We are calling upon the Honorable Prime Minister to really and truly give some urgency to that. And we need to get a response from government negotiating team. That is not good enough because that is not the history of the new administration. They didn't really give any headache to negotiations and such. The history and the record is there. The government Man tries to settle disputes and such peacefully and harmoniously. And we have not gone making noise and doing all those things for negotiations in the history with the administration because they have been on record fulfilling what they have to do. It's just that we are shocked and surprised for this, while we're coming down to the end of this negotiation and nobody responding to the Grenada Union of Teachers when we almost there. And we want to know what is the reason for that. And it's not good at all. So we're calling upon the government of Grenada, the government negotiating team, to really and truly do what they have to do to respond to us and let us settle this matter peacefully for negotiations. Like you always do, the record is there. Thank you very much for this. And finally here, I'm going to talk about sports. All right, because we are in the sports season. All right, so we're looking forward. So right about now, branch sports are taking place. Yesterday we had St. Mark's sports, branch sports. We had previously, a few days ago, St. John's. Then we had Carrico and Pitty-Matnick. Gone already. We had St. David's. We also had St. Andrew's sports. And today, all roads lead to St. Patrick's. So that's the branch sports sponsored by Nexa Credit Union and the Grenada Union of Teachers. Nexa Credit Union is the family of the Grenada Union of Teachers, a child of the Grenada Union of Teachers. So we are very proud of Nexa and the Grenada Union of Teachers working hand in hand to facilitate and to develop young people from the primary school level throughout Grenada, Carrico, and Pitty-Matnick for the development of our athletes, of family, and all those things. So sports is an integral part of education, a very integral part of the holistic development of students. And so when you have a sponsor like Nexa, it's a very good thing. With the Grenada Union of Teachers, don't underestimate teachers. Nation, rally behind your teachers. Teachers facilitate all other institutions, facilitate all the ministers. We educate everybody else. We educate the police. We educate the ministers. We educate all those in the Ministry of Education. Teachers educate all those in the Public Service Commission. We also educate all those from government negotiating team who come and sit down with us and who respond to us in every aspect of life. Throughout Grenada, Carrico, and Pitty-Matnick, in every institution, teachers that are educating the nation. Yes. And so we call upon to have some more respect and show some appreciation and love to the teachers, to rally beyond the teachers. Because teachers are doing a wonderful job, not only educating the nation's children, but a brighter future for your children. Not only coming to work, look at what we sponsor in the Grenada Union of Teachers, just as Nexa sponsoring sports. For 60-something years, the Grenada Union of Teachers spending its own money, the union dues, teachers' dues. So when you already check it in Grenada, not only we negotiating, but teachers are giving back to the nation in every aspect. In cricket, football, all the games, giving back to schools. Teachers are the one who's sacrificing. If there is a problem in school and such a window breaker, the teachers. For fundraising and everything for school, because the ministry cannot do it alone, or the government. Teachers, if something happened to the nation's children and they fall or they sick, who bringing them in the hospital? You think the teachers leaving them there in the medical center? The teachers that are running. If a child has no money to pay bus and everything like that, so no lunch, well, no, you have free lunch. But the teachers still, if the teacher see Johnny doesn't have a shoe, or Johnny doesn't have a pants, or tear pants, the teacher behind the scene, they're already behind the scene, using the budget scarce resources for the family. If teachers go to St. George's or to Grenville and they realize that they're missing an aid, they're missing a chat, they're missing something for school, they already call the Ministry of Education. Sometimes they cut off the money for the groceries, for the bills, for paying Grenlec and other things, and buying other things for the class and for the students. In all the institutions and such, it's teachers that really dip their hand in their pocket, deep in every aspect for the nation's children. So it shouldn't be all this difficulty for what teachers going through. Yes, there is always room for improvement for our teachers. There is always room to step up. Because you may always find out of everybody, one person might be playing the fool or a few persons. So there is no excuse for that. There's always room for productivity and everything. And we call on every teacher. We know you're doing a wonderful job, but there are still people who are slack enough to step up. So when you step up, you make it easier for the union to go to the government and to say, our teachers are productive, hardworking, doing everything, and we can argue our case. So we call upon you wherever you are to go the extra mile as you always do. Teachers love the nation's children. Teachers love our parents. Teachers love Grenada. Teachers participate in everything and go the extra mile. But we're still asking you to step up and to do what you have to do to build Grenada, to educate our nation. That salient responsibility is upon you. It's upon our shoulders. Every teacher, every parent, every principal, for educating the nation's children wherever they are. Whether they are poor, whether they are rich, wherever they are. But the teachers show love and appreciate and respect our teachers, because teachers go the extra mile and teachers educate everybody in the nation. And we shouldn't be seeing all this other trouble in terms of what we do. Teachers' power. Teachers that spend the scarce resources that they should be spending on their own children, they spend it on others. And so teachers shouldn't be going through that. So while we give the administration praise because they know that they're doing a wonderful job for teachers and for public officers and for the nation. But you see, this one, with the sort of disrespect that we got for this round of negotiation, I have praised and the union have praised the government in every other negotiations and every other place. So nobody could say now that the GUT is speaking and the GUT going down on the government. Even in this press conference, we praise the government for all the good things that they have been doing. But when it's time for fires, it's time for fires. And what the GNT did there, we had a good start. We had the negotiations was really good in a sense for a period of time. But now it is not good enough and such. And the disrespect that we got in GNT not responding to us and at the same time negotiating with other unions, we have no problem with that. But our negotiations should have been completed a long time ago. And we ask them to come back and to do what they have to do and let us know what is happening. So our teachers are concerned, they are calling and such, and we want to address this matter peacefully for a harmonious relationship with government, with the Ministry of Education, and to teach the nation's children. So as I end, I'll say, all roads lead to the National Stadium for the Athletics Nexa Credit Union, Grenada Union of Teachers, National Primary School Games on March 4th and 5th, 2026. All roads lead wherever you are. And even if you in the diaspora, then you can follow the sports in Grenada. The mother of all battles, the best national primary school games. And for that 3 years, it was sensational. You know that, so we know Carriacou and Petit Matnick will be here. St. Mark's, St. John's, St. George's, St. David's, St. Andrews, and St. Andrews, St. Patrick's. St. Andrews is the defending champion, and this post this year will be great. From competition is stiff, from every branch, from every parish, wherever you are, mark down that date, March 4th and 5th. TNR will be bringing that coverage there. All roads lead to Dr. Kirani James Athletic Stadium, March 4th and 5th, for the Nexa Credit Union, Grenada Union of Teachers, National Primary School Games. May God continue to bless our teachers. May God continue to bless the Grenada Union of Teachers. May God continue to bless the workers of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Matnick, and the working class people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Matnick. And we say, going forward, we just want to thank you, and may God bless us all as we strive to go forward under the theme again, anchored in faith, guided by purpose. Thank you.